Hey there.
Yes.
Why you look so sad?
Because it's the last of the Pastor Bob Show.
The last of the what?
Pastor Bob Show.
It's the Pastor Bob Show.
Well, these past episodes have been.
More like the Gong Show, but okay.
But good news is, we can have him back. We can have him back.
Well, wait,
he
hold on.
Be a featured artist.
Wait a minute.
He could be someone who comes in once a month to give his pearls
Once
of
a
wisdom.
month?
Okay, twice a month. I agree. You're right.
Wait a minute.
We actually could have little snippets of him.
Wait, whoa. Is this a ploy to get somebody to take your place so you don't have to be on it?
Oh, no. I'm saying he can come and visit with us.
Visit with us.
Yes.
Did you not hear our conversation from a couple of weeks ago?
Yes.
Where I said, like, it's more like you guys and not us? I'm invisible.
But it's the us.
You know, I feel
you
like
and I together, we are the us.
Oh, the us.
The us, yes. And he can come visit
brownie
with
points.
the us.
Okay, brownie points for you. We can discuss this in private.
Yeah, because
he can
come by.
We have to get to the podcast. Okay?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
It's good stuff, folks.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right,
it's Pastor Bob, of course it's good stuff.
Let's just hit play.
All right, go for it.
Welcome to For This Reason. I'm Bird.
And I'm Fish of BNF Ministry.
Thank you for joining us today as we further discuss God's definition of marriage then
and how it still applies to us today.
We hope this time together is enjoyable and educational.
Nah.
Yeah, no.
Let's just have a good time.
One of the things about learning each other's preferences inside and out is how are you going to become one flesh if you're not of one mind?
Right.
And you don't have knowledge of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Why did David talk about God being so amazingly connected to him?
Mm-hmm.
Because God cared enough about the innermost parts of David. Do wives care about the innermost parts of their husbands, their minds, their hearts, their preferences, their fears, even?
Well, the thought
that has to be both ways.
The thought of being one mind is something that's prevalent in a lot of marriages. The wife's mind. Everyone's going.
You know what, ladies, we have to do better. Okay, I'm feeling alone.
Stop me when I'm lying.
But some of the unbalancedness in our teaching about Mother's Day and Father's Day. I want you to anyone who's listening to this, just kind of do a little observation. In May, when it's Mother's Day, look around at the congregation, now that it's not all COVID live streaming, and you're actually back in the building, and how many women are there dressed in their best, bringing their mamas with them, so grandma's there too, and their children are dressed nicely because they're all going to church to honor mama, and afterwards they're going out someplace for dinner. Okay? How many men show up on Father's Day? Because most of them are thinking, well, if it's my day, I'm going to stay home and watch a football game.
Yeah.
And here's another experiment to do. On Mother's Day, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, try to walk into a restaurant and get a table.
True.
On Father's Day, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, try to walk into a restaurant and get a table.
He has proven this to me.
If you try it on Mother's Day, they will laugh at you as you're pulling into the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
No, on Father's Day,
plenty of room.
Buy one, get one free. Just come on in, whatever it is. Because on Father's Day, everyone presents Father with an apron and a slab of meat and points him toward the grill. But it's my day. I didn't want to be grilling. Why am I cooking my own dinner on my day? No one shows up on Mother's Day and says, "Hey, Ma, here's a pot roast.
What you cooking?
Here's a pot roast. Knock yourself out."
The advertisements show that this is the thing that you really want to do. instead of wives just finding out what their husband wants
But
to do.
just like wives, we want to do the thing we want to do when we want to do it.
Yes.
So when you're telling me you're going to be grilling, that takes away the joy of it. Just like if I were to show up and say, okay, today you are going to be cooking. Exactly.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, you understand what my typical client sounds like.
I get it. And I get it from a standpoint of watching a lot of bad marriages growing up. And my family, dominant females, only uncles on my dad's side, no uncles on mom's side. And we interacted more with mom's side. So the women ran everything. And for myself and my sibling and cousins, we had a lot of questions. Who is in charge? Why aren't there any men? Where do they go? You know, like we know they come at some point.
It's like the missing socks in the dryer.
Yeah, you know, like you meet someone and then it's like you come back the next holiday and you're they're not here. Okay. So you kind of grow up with this thought like, well, what do men do? Why is it that if I look at my friend's home and I see the men, they're active and they're doing things like that, I don't see that here in my own family. What's going on? What's wrong? You know, and of course it's not matching what I'm hearing from the pulpit. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong. So for me, coming from a female family where everything was ran by women, no matter what, I did not want to repeat the cycle, but I didn't know how much of the cycle was in me. And so there are times when Daryl does have to say, okay, sounds like we're kind of going off of past experiences or, you know, something we grew up in. And I had to think about it. Like, what am I arguing about? Why does it really matter? This is just about me getting my way and it doesn't really matter. It didn't matter, but that's what we're trained to do because we're women. We have to be happy and it's their job to make us happy.
If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
And we can't continue to, push this line of thought into the next generation. I mean, my daughter is kind of independent. I did put that into her, but at the same time, I wanted her to know it's okay to build a life with a person. But I was fumbling teaching her things about relationships because I didn't really have that picture in my head. So
I was going to say, in our modern culture, how many children grow up with no consistent presence of a father figure?
We just discussed this last night because a situation occurred, and in my mind, I'm going, but I taught her XYZ. And he said, well, who demonstrated that? Or how did she actually see that? But because, like I said, I didn't want to get married. So there was not a male presence around for my children as they were coming up in those really impressionable years. And I actually thought I was protecting them because I had no plans of taking anybody seriously for marriage. So why have them interacting with them on a consistent basis like that? But there were people that they could be around and they were fun, but they weren't responsible enough to take the position of, you know, dad or husband. Daryl really had to talk to me for about, an hour or so last night to help me connect those dots because he's like, you may have verbally talked to her and you honestly may have taught a lesson on this. However, it didn't stay or didn't really take root because there was no demonstration of it. Now I'm living the thing that I was trying to teach her, but she's grown. She's an adult. She's, off doing her life.
And you can't go back and fill in
right.
voids.
Yeah.
But sometimes people will get kind of feisty during a Bible study. I know, it's hard for you to imagine. And they'll say, well, after Adam and Eve fell into sin, they both sinned. So why did Adam get told, why did Eve get told your husband will rule over you?
Yeah.
When you hear that word "rule over," that's part of the curse, not part of the original plan.
Right.
And it says, and here's where translations have grown. I think King James said to Eve, "Your desire will be unto your husband, and he will rule over you." And I thought, well, why is desiring your husband part of a curse?
Right.
And more modern translations pick up on the nuance to that it's actually implying your desires will be in conflict with your husband. But he still has the authority. And that makes more sense.
Yes.
But then I thought, but why did God do that if God loves men and women the same? His sons and daughters are both precious to him. Why did he set it up that way? You may or may not like this, Daryl. You can boo and hiss if you want. Adam and Eve, we say, but the sin was eating forbidden fruit. But there were underlying weaknesses of some sort that were expressed differently in the husband and the wife. She acted on her own without the us involvement, and decided that the snake had a better idea than God did, and she ate the fruit. And then it says, and she gave it to her husband, who was with her.
Right. Thank you.
It's okay. So when people say, well, she was deceived, but he wasn't. I said, yeah, but he didn't need to be. Because when she says, hi, and he says, what's for dinner? And she says, we're making fruit casserole with a side of squirrel. And he says, okay, yum, yum. Her sin was acting independently without us.
Right.
And his sin was abdicating.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot about abdicating because I've often told my clients that if I had $1 for every time I had said to one of our children, go ask your mother, I would be retired already and living a pretty highfalutin lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because that's an abdication. And I think that's something that I think God looked at Adam and said, you going to abdicate? Well, let's have a crash course in not abdicating. You don't get to abdicate anymore. The buck stops with you. It's not the purity of us that the Trinity has under the curse.
Right.
You're going to have to take a stronger leadership. And your wife, under the curse, her sinful nature is going to resist that. And of course, I always tell people, are you going to live under the curse or are you going to live under the promise?
Yeah, yeah.
Because when we're really trying to build our marriages, if so many churches are teaching, churches, I apologize if you think I'm talking about a particular church, but a lot of churches teach the Archie Bunker theology. I am the king of my castle and my wife is to obey me.
Right.
And
put your chest back in.
There's... Your chest has sunk lower over the years.
That's what you get.
You need to do video.
I don't. I can't edit that at all.
But because we're teaching the curse, what we should do is start with the curse and say, let's go back as redeemed people.
Right.
As redeemed people, and let God restore the relationship.
Yeah.
So that, yes, there will be times when we fall back into the sinful nature. And so there has to be some sort of a structure of responsibility and authority and who submits when and how.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, people will say to me, oh, you must be an egalitarian. And I say, I've never owned an eagle in my life. But because I come across as saying, oh, there's no difference. Women can do anything men can do. And that's not my position. My position is complementary. And that is that the man has the ultimate responsibility. And if there's any division, the buck stops with him. Yeah. But then I turn around and say, but in a redeemed marriage, that should be totally transparent, or almost totally transparent. Right. Because I can count on the fingers of one hand the times when I have exerted that authority over my wife and still have fingers left over. And she can pretty much tell you when those occasions were. It was when she was getting carried away with something that had to be perfect.
Yeah.
For some occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally said, it's 11 o'clock at night. Why are you doing all this cleaning? Because I want the house to look nice when our children come home and our grandchildren arrive. And I said, why do you want them to come at all? Oh, I love them. I want to enjoy them. And you can't do that if you're exhausted. Go to bed.
Mm.
That's as Archie Bunker as I get. And she said, yes, my Lord and Master. No.
No, she does not.
That is not Miss
I think
Mary.
she probably said, yes, I will do that where you were asleep. No, she understood that. At least the next morning she
right.
she was rested.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my taking care of her, not just running her life.
Yeah.
And so there are times if the buck stops with me and there's a decision that has to be made,
mm-hmm.
and we're both praying about it, we should expect to get the same answer from God.
Yes.
But we're flawed people. We don't always.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you break a tie with two people voting? Somebody's got to say, okay, I don't want to be the one that makes the final decision, but we have to have a decision by tomorrow
mm-hmm.
on whatever it is.
Right.
And it falls to the husband after he has thoroughly tried to examine his wife's heart and mind. It still falls to him. And he's the one who has to live with that responsibility. That's complementarianism, but it is a complementarianism that prefers the one
mm-hmm.
Who is turning to you for the final decision.
And that's when people say that the decisions in marriage should be 50-50. And one of the things I like to tell people, it's not 50-50. Your decision power is 49.5 to 49.5. And in case of extreme circumstances, that missing 1% lies with the husband. But most of the time, that missing 1% is not going to be needed.
That's right.
If the 49.5 on the one side and the 49.5 on the other side can come to an agreement, you've got 99%. Mm-hmm. That 1% is not necessary. But if, for example, like you were talking about the color of paint, if there's a blue and a green, because I'm not going to get into shades of blue and I'm not going to get into shades of green.
He won't, no.
And if it's blue and green, blue and green, blue and green, blue and green, well, it's got to be painted at some point. So that's where I think for situations like that, where there is no, okay, you know what, fine, it's going to be blue. It just is.
Or aqua.
So.
But
I had to learn that. Yeah, we're getting
I like that analogy. I would tell people that marriage is not 50-50, it's 100-100.
Mm-hmm.
Where both want to give everything they have for the sake of the other, because the other they value in their hearts more than themselves. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, it can be 100-100, but there's one other vote that has veto power, and that's God.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's always the key to it. If husbands and wives are arguing about how do we make this decision,
mm-hmm.
pray.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And pray as not to manipulate God and say, you're on my side, aren't you, Lord?
Lord,
right.
let her see the error of her ways.
Wow.
Yes.
And
wow.
come to the
Lord,
correct
it
conclusion.
is this woman thou hast given me.
And that's where I had to learn the whole look up. When you don't know what to do, look up. I'm the third person in this union.
Yes.
So you're never lost, and I have to be confident in the person that I married. He's chasing God just as much as I'm chasing God. So if God's telling me to look up, I'm confident that God is also telling him to look up. Mm-hmm. And like you said, at some point we will come to a mutual decision because we are both looking up at the same person.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And if I had a Venn diagram, which does no good on audio podcast, if you take 3 circles, and 2 of the circles are the man and the woman,
mm-hmm.
and as they come together and overlap, it makes that little football in the middle.
Yes.
That's us. But at the same time, the third circle is God.
Mm-hmm.
And if they press into God,
mm-hmm.
guess what happens automatically to their little football? It gets bigger.
Yeah.
Because as they get further into intersecting with Christ,
mm-hmm.
their intersection with each other also gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's really pushing us into doing video, isn't he?
That one is
only if you're on the camera side and I'm the voice off in the
oh
disembodied voice that says, Oh, my children.
The error of your ways.
Well, is there anything that you would like to leave us with? You really gave us quite a bit.
Well, we can do that. There's one thing we have not done.
And that is?
Who is he?
Magical
but we
miracle maker.
But we just started off with that.
We're not sure where the conversation's going.
That's an extra.
Right. No, we'll move it around. It's just, I'll let you introduce your disc golf friend.
No, you do the intro.
See, you know what? There's a conflict here.
We're only slightly known for our disc golf. What we're really known for is having breakfast at Cracker Barrel.
That is so true.
Yes.
And talking for so long that the waitress brings the lunch menu around and looks a little bit moving on.
Oh my goodness!
Clearing her throat in a very meaningful manner.
It's so funny because people will say, "How did you get a meeting with Pastor Bob?" I'm like, "Well, you got to be hungry for one, you know."
It helps.
It helps because people love to hear from you. I tell you that all the time.
So, greetings.
You're gonna tell me that's his norm.
That is his norm.
Okay.
And I will use my
my
stained glass voice.
What do you want?
The normal greeting that we do. You know what? I heard what I just said.
I
heard what I just said.
That's the video that I
Oh
saw.
my goodness. Okay. Okay.
Saying, greetings.
See?
Good day.
Good day. Yes, you never know when people are listening.
I'm going to sit back and let you men handle this intro.
So you're not going to be a part of this?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'll chime in.
It's not good for man to be alone.
Because I can't tell you what voice to use, so you go ahead.
James Earl Jones, it's back to you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Pastor Bob.
I was born.
Well, I am marvelous and miraculous.
Marriage maker. That's the
marriage maker.
My credentials are: I have been married for 47 years. I'm in the 48th year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
To the most amazing woman. I would not trade her for anything because I don't have that many ribs left.
And we wouldn't let you anyway.
That God has just blessed us. And I tell the congregation when I preach that I have learned more about the character of God and his plan for us by living out his plan for marriage than by just the study of the word alone. Because it's that living laboratory of the divine, of the holy, where everything that happens under the guidance of God.
Yeah.
And so I've been blessed, and my wife, Mary, in case you want to know the name of the most wonderful wife in the world, she and I both grew up in very, not just intact, but loving families. Both sets of parents were married for over 60 years before one of them passed away.
Wow.
And so we bring into our marriage 120 years of good background. And it does make a difference.
It does.
And over my pastorate of 45 plus years, the thing that I've enjoyed more than anything else is working with couples and helping to strengthen and prepare people for marriage and to put marriages back together when they hit a rough patch. And that was, I think that's God's primary calling in my life.
Oh, you do it well. You do it so well. So if
Mary
someone...
taught me everything I know about being a husband.
Did she really?
I can show you the scars.
Or the price.
Being a husband and recovery.
But I make it sound like we have a perfect marriage. And the only marriage ever made in heaven was Adam and Eve, and it didn't go well. But sometimes I'll tell people we have a storybook marriage. And when they go, oh, and I say, but every storybook has an ogre. And sometimes it's me.
I can't picture it, but okay.
But I've just been blessed. And, Abraham was told by God, I'm going to bless you to be a blessing. And I think that goes for all of us. Whatever he gives us that blesses us is something we need to pass on.
Absolutely. And you've done that well. You have a good name out here, and that's amazing. It's always wonderful to say, Pastor Bob. Oh, I know. I've heard of Pastor Bob. his classwork. It's a good thing to have you on our team. If someone wanted to get in touch with you or needed your services, how would they find you?
They would email me, and my email address is Bob. You can spell it frontwards or backwards. You can use capital letters. You can even do it upside down.
It would be pop.
Everyone knows the @ sign. livethelife.org. Live the Life. And if you're not familiar with that, that is state and beyond the state of Florida, nonprofit that exists for strengthening marriages.
Awesome.
And for those who did not quite catch that tricky spelling there, the link to his email will be in the notes to this podcast.
Oh, yeah. Bob. B-O-B.
Don't confuse them. Do not confuse them.
I can't with you too. I can't.
It's easier to spell than Daryl.
That is true. And Daryl is really confusing if you try it backwards.
Oh, Lord. Have a great week, everyone.
Lerad, yeah.